Hello? You there? Just kidding. Hey guys, this is Kevin from the Soul Trap. I'm the head of the production team here, and we want to let you in on a little behind the scenes look on how we brainstorm some of our episodes. So we hit record just a little bit earlier when we got into the studio to let you in on that. So let us know what you think, and if you like it, we'll do it more often. So leave a comment below and just give us your thoughts. Hope you enjoy it.
Recording now.
Okay, so a couple weeks ago, we did the show on HARP you just mentioned, and if you're watching this, you're watching us behind the scenes, how we brainstorm, and sometimes we have conversations before we even get into the show, and this is one. I'm looking at a headline right now: Southern California burns, DEI officials struggle to contain fires after Democrats state drastically cut water supplies over the past decade. So you've got two different things going on there. You've got liberalism and Democrats and elitism, once again, shooting themselves in the foot. But I guess the bigger question is it me? Is it you? Or does it seem like the storms, the fires, the snow, the fog, that there is an intensity with the weather that has not been before? What do you think?
It's definitely changing. If you go the classic global warming course, it should be over a long span that things are gradually getting worse, but it just seems like an exponential growth in the severity of how bad everything has been with even just this past year. I mean, with the flooding in North Carolina, to the fires, they have massive earthquakes going on in places that shouldn't have earthquakes. And it's just something's not right. And like the fog is like a very weird fog. Like we've had fog here normally when it gets cool out, and the humidity and the fog's in the air. But this past couple of months though, it was warmer out and foggy, which is very because
strange. Somebody would go, well, hey, fog is fog, and you're looking for stuff. I get that, but there's two things. Number one, I don't know in my life that I have ever seen particleized fog.
No.
I've seen drizzle, I've seen snow. I've never seen particleized fog.
Right.
Now, the other issue that you have with that is that, people will be like, well, blah, blah, blah. This is happening across geographical locations, which are very, very different. So I'm looking right now at Florida, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, California, Texas. So you can't get any different than Minnesota and Florida.
Yeah.
You can't get much different than Pennsylvania and California. They're on the different side of the continent.
Right.
All right. They're saying the same thing. You've got pictures of it right here. You've got video of the fog. We've got pictures of it. People are freaking out. And then they're saying it makes them feel sick. It smells like chemicals and it's not normal. And this is what's interesting to me. It's the exact same thing. So the exact same particleized fog in Minnesota is the exact same particleized fog that you see in Florida. How do you get that from a natural occurrence?
Like it's an aerosol-based, it's something that's been released above the atmosphere, above our heads.
Yeah. Like
drones.
Like drones on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And then letting the natural winds take it, because it's pretty crazy when you look at it. It is really, really wild when you look at it, and it's all over. Then you go and you start looking, and then you've got the news, and it kind of went, but you just start looking at the atmosphere because, the Bible says Satan is the prince of the powers of the air. We've been, one of the things we've talked about here on the Soul Trap before, and maybe we should revisit this, is Operation Fishbowl.
Yeah.
Some people believe that the nuclear testings were actually not nuclear testings per se in and of themselves, but an attempt to try to puncture the firmament, the fishbowl. Right. I think it's obvious when you look at the cloud seeding, when you look at the chemtrails, we're messing around in the atmosphere. Well, then you come and you've got lightning strike. Did you see the news on that? The lightning strikes Okay, lightning struck the U.S. Capitol building and the Washington Monument.
Oh, yes.
Simultaneously.
Yeah, yeah.
There's video of that. Look at the video. How do you conspiracy theory that?
Yeah, right.
Now this all goes to, what was it you brought up? We almost did a show on it, and maybe we should. About the Pope. What was the deal with the Pope here recently?
Oh, when the Pope was praying to open portals on Christmas Eve, and now they're putting cameras into the dead saints' tombs, and just why? Well, what do you do? I guess this is a Jubilee year.
Yeah.
Where they're going to travel back, like a pilgrimage to go visit Peter's tomb and all those things like that.
Right.
But I guess you could do it digitally, so you don't have to. If it's that important to the Catholic to travel all the way back there, but if it's too much of an inconvenience to you, you can just pull it up on your phone.
Muslims still make you go to Mecca.
Yeah.
You still got to go to Mecca.
Yeah.
But we'll put a camera in there so you can do it from your couch.
Right.
But it is kind of wild, man. I'm looking at the video. If you look at the two videos right here, it hit the Washington Monument and the Capitol building simultaneously.
Right.
Lightning. So there's a lot going on in the atmosphere. Then you look at the whole, these Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve. You've got the ISIS guy driving the truck, and then the next day you've got the bomber going on. What's really crazy too? Have you done any research yet, or have we looked into the fact that there were no barriers during? Have you ever been like to downtown Tampa, or any place like that? I mean, they got barriers everywhere.
Right.
This guy, man, people just driving everywhere. There's no barriers.
Yeah, like he was invited in.
Yeah, and kind of like the barriers on January 6th were removed from the video. Yeah, it really is. And then I'm looking at a video of that there, and then the real big one that we're talking about now are the fires that are going on.
Those are weird.
I wonder what have you read as far as the strangeness of it? Because isn't this something similar to the Maui fires?
Yeah, it's just it's a massive and intense fire, and the amount of people that are staying in their homes, which is weird. I saw a video of a guy that was on his back porch consoling his dog, and he's surrounded by a literal wall of fire that's just consuming everything around him, and he's just telling his dog, it's going to be okay, we're going to be all right. And then they're spotting these odd drones all around the locations. Now, it could be the fire departments flying drones to see what's going on, but they're just very strange looking, and they're very close to the fires.
Yes.
So it's just something doesn't add up. Something's weird.
I agree. I mean, we still have never gotten the full answer for the whole Maui fires. Because there were reports, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe you can pull this up, but there were reports that people were being blocked from getting out.
They were, and you can see on the pictures from the Maui fires that there's so many cars just lined up on the road where people just abandoned their vehicles and just jumped ship into the water. They jumped off the side of the road, get into the water to escape the fires. And you see the same thing, the roads in California. There was videos of bulldozers clearing roads with cars on there. It looked like a scene out of The Walking Dead, where all the cars are just locked in on the interstate and everybody just abandoned them. It's just very, apocalyptic looking. Yeah,
it really, really is. So here's one of the things we got to think about, and we don't have a lot of time. I don't even know if we can do, but it's interesting to think about coming up, and we're just going through the news. But there's reports that there is going to be some kind of uprising on the inauguration day.
Yeah.
And I'm here on InfoWars, and government whistleblower reveals, quote, unnerving HHS deployment request for critical emergency medical support at the Trump inauguration. A government whistleblower has come forward with a memorandum of an unprecedented and unnerving internal request for emergency medical personnel at the president-elect's upcoming inauguration. High-level Department of Veteran Affairs insider turned over the internal memorandum to the O'Keefe Media Group. And O'Keefe, they're pretty on target with their stuff, man, who followed up with additional inquiries. The memorandum, reveals a request from the Health and Human Services Administration for strategic preparedness for critical medical support, including paramedics, emergency nurses, and doctors at the event at the U.S. Capitol. And so we can put the video up of O'Keefe actually talking about it.
An internal memo from the Veterans Administration surfaced containing an unusual request: support for the upcoming presidential inauguration. A high-level source inside the Department of Veterans Affairs has disclosed a memo from the Executive Director, Office of the Emergency Management within Veterans Affairs. The source inside the VA said the source deployment request did not occur for the last 2 inaugurations. We spoke to the source inside the VA to ask if this is something that's typical. So, can you just talk a minute about this being typical or not typical within the VA? Them doing these sorts of things for the past few inaugurations?
What concerned me was that this has never been requested before, especially not from HHS. What we have, what I saw to me was a little bit unnerving. I've been in the VA for several inaugurations, and this was the first time they have ever asked for DEMS personnel.
First time they've ever asked for personnel?
For an inauguration, yes.
Why do you think that is?
I have no idea. That's why I decided to send that memo to you, because I believe that there's something unnerving about it. I'm not 100% sure, but my gut says this is not normal, and it's not.
Is this guy being set up? Is Donald Trump being set up to be, are they doing stuff to make him more and more and more and more popular?
Yeah.
And more and more and more powerful, and the whole nation behind him, because they know down the road we're getting ready. Kind of like what they did with Bush. Mm-hmm. Remember, Bush barely won, right? You got the hanging chads down there in Dade County. He barely wins. Then all of a sudden, 9/11 comes along. He's standing out there with the firemen. Mm-hmm. He's throwing a pitch out at Yankee Stadium, and we're ready to go to war with him. And you have to wonder if something like that isn't being replayed.
Yeah, Rich and I were talking about that this morning. How do you look at what needs to happen during the tribulation period and during everything that needs to be set up? And now Trump is out there talking about, Gulf of America, making Canada and Mexico part of America. And he's going to go squash Hamas. Putin's going to bow down to him. And all this stuff is he's going to come in. He's making all these wild claims. Uh-huh. And that's one of the theories behind Joe Rogan saying why people like him so much, because he just says so much just crazy stuff all the time.
Oh yeah,
and he's just throwing all this wild stuff. He's all over the place with his claims. But who's to say that he's not going to go out there and buy Greenland and make Canada and Mexico and change the name? He's just bringing in all kinds of stuff from all over the world. He's just kind of consolidating everything now.
Is there a military strategic benefit to buying Greenland?
I don't know. That's
the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It is amazing what he's doing. To say we're going to change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. And let's not forget now, this is the guy that under his administration, he was the one that changed Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And the Abraham Accords. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really, really is. It really is interesting. A couple of weeks ago we talked with Jeff Grider. It's interesting. I was just looking on there too. While this is going on, Europe is on fire with Islam. They're being invaded basically by immigrants from Islam. And you've got Germany now. I just saw an article. It said highest number of German bankruptcies expected in 2025.
Yeah.
Since the 2009. So that's all we need is Germany to have another financial crisis, because they just had their right wingers start to come to power there.
Yeah.
So it's going to be real.
What's it going to take then for England to reach out and say, we need help? For Germany to say, we need help. And Donald Trump says, I'll help you. I'm a businessman. What does any businessman like that do? Swoop into failing businesses that have potential, buy them up and flip them and turn them around to make them profitable again.
Uh-huh.
And maybe he's the knight in shining armor that the world is looking for to come in and to, not saying he's the Antichrist, but what if he's helping to lay the foundation for the leader to come in to bring because now the Muslims are going to be against him but how do you unify everybody else in the Muslims to whatever his new world order is?
I agree. It definitely is an interesting thing. And just to circle back around, we were just talking about, I just saw an update here. They're calling those fires out there unprecedented.
Yeah.
3,000 acres in the Los Angeles area, forcing, 49,000 plus people to evacuate.
Yeah.
So you start looking at what Trump's doing, all these things going on. It really does feel like it's this build up to something,
Like they laid the groundwork a long time ago so these liberal policies would fail, just like Build Back Better would fail, and then Joe Biden and Kamala got out of there. Gavin Newsom's going to fail, and then Trump is going to come in and probably rescue all these people with the fires out there in California, and then who knows what's going to happen in the next election cycle out there. They're going to elect a Republican governor, and it's just it just seems like they set all this stuff up like it was almost too easy. The election was almost too easy.
Oh yeah, well, so we never really did quote unquote an election show,
right?
But when you go back to that, you've got two near misses, assassination attempts on him. They know good and well that Joe Biden hasn't been sentient for 2 years. They knew good and well when they put him up with the first debate that he was going to lose and have that problem. Then they had Kamala come in, and they knew she was going to lose. You're exactly right. It's as if and this is where people will, are you a Trump supporter? Yeah, as long as he's doing right, I am, absolutely. But at the same time, you're looking at it and you're like, man, the system is pushing him.
Yeah.
The system is putting him up there for a reason.
Right.
And everything is focused on that. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? Why are they doing that?
It's all been in place. Look at The Simpsons. The Simpsons predicted everything that has ever happened, since they came out in the late 80s. And they're ending, I think they may have aired their last episode. I saw that.
Yeah.
So is the ending of The Simpsons the ending of the prediction because the end is near? I mean, they've predicted everything from Donald Trump coming down the escalator there to Hillary running for president to all this stuff. I mean, it's just crazy. Like it's all part of a big plan that they've kind of thrown in our faces from the beginning.
Yes, it really is. And the predictive programming, that's very fascinating when you think about it when it comes right down to it. I don't know how, I mean, when you're looking at it right now, you've got now Ukraine, Zelensky, he's taking a step back. So that kind of thing like that. But
Trudeau just resigned.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. But I'm hearing now reports. I just saw a report. What was it? Let me see here. That he didn't really resign.
Oh, no.
Let's see here. Yeah, it's not, he's got a 2020. Trudeau's popularity has decreased fairly steadily over the past year. He now has a 22% approval rating. That's pretty bad. In some ways, it's not surprising. Cost of living has gone way up. Rival parties, blah, blah, blah. You know what's interesting to me? When you look at Germany, when you look at now America, when you look at Canada, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Great Britain. But there is a move to the right. There is a shift to the right. It seems to me that's happening in global politics, which usually means you're going to have war.
Yeah.
That usually means that's what that means. So the question is, what does war look like? Now, we'd have to pull it up. We might be able to put the clip on just this casual conversation. But there is on Sean Ryan. There was a lady on there, the Sean Ryan show recently, who said there were like 1,000 sleeper agents.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can pull that.
Sarah Adams was on there.
Was that who it was?
I believe so, yeah.
I just want to clarify. You are 100% certain that there are 1,000 plus Al-Qaeda trained fighters within the United States borders?
Well, Al-Qaeda says they trained and deployed 1,000 for this attack. First off, I think there's more than 1,000 Al-Qaeda members in the United States. But for the Homeland attack, that number is based on what Al-Qaeda is saying, so they could exaggerate it. However, they did have about 1,400 in the Hamas attack, so the number is not off from what they did in the first round of attacks.
How old is this information?
I mean, it's ongoing. So the training's already done, right? So all the training info is now old because they trained all the Homeland attackers, if that makes sense. So like next week, you're not going to get info of a Homeland attacker probably at a terrorist camp because it's already done. So all this has been in the last year.
So it's been over a year. It's been a year.
Because this was a continuation, so they planned October 7th first, and then they rolled into planning this after.
Are we next, or is Europe next?
I think the embassy attacks are next, in my opinion.
What are they waiting for the embassies?
I don't think they're waiting. I think it took time to train them. They've now approved them, and they've now moved into the operational stage.
Yeah, and even Livelsberger alluded to the fact that there are several Iranian surface-to-air missiles placed all over the United States right now within those sleeper cells, which was in there targeting Trump's jets, and so that could be one of the inauguration day things. I mean, there's going to be plenty of planes flying around in the air. Who knows?
Could you imagine?
Who knows what they're planning on doing?
Well, what if?
Don't give them any ideas, man.
Yeah. Well, what if you had all these drones on the East Coast, and you prepped it, right? Everybody knows, and it's China, and it's China, and it's China, and then something happens to the president's helicopter or plane, and it's China, and we've got a young vice president. I believe he would step in, the vice president, because it's been certified now.
It's been certified, yeah.
He would step in. And there's something weird about that guy's eyes.
Yes.
What's his name?
Yeah.
Not Vance, but Vance.
J.D. Vance, yeah.
Yeah. I always want to go Vance Refrigeration.
Yes.
Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration. Stanley Hudson. Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration.
Ryan Howard.
Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration.
But there's something about that guy's eyes. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But yeah, former CIA officer warns 1,000 Al-Qaeda fighters in the U.S. for the next Homeland attack. Former CIA officer warns 1,000 Al-Qaeda fighters in the U.S. for the next Homeland attack. In a recent discussion on the Sean Ryan Show, former CIA targeting officer Sarah Adams warned of a potentially devastating attack planned by Al-Qaeda terrorists on American soil. The interview offers significant insight into what may be unfolding as Al-Qaeda sleeper cells could be activating in the wake of New Orleans terrorist attack and a possible vehicle-borne improvised explosion in the rear of the rented Tesla Cybertruck. So yeah,
what's interesting too. This was several years back. A person who I know was a former IRS lawyer.
Okay,
and he couldn't disclose a whole lot of information, but he was telling me about a joint operation that they did all over the United States. They busted up a huge Iranian ring but it was a joint operation for the IRS because they had to pinpoint a lot of these. They were financing all these different organizations, but they were doing it through. They had a tow truck company that was nationwide. They had a medical disposal company that would come up to pick up medical waste, toxic stuff, and then they had convenience stores nationwide. So they were bringing money in, laundering money through these businesses. But what he disclosed to me, what he told me was what they were intending on doing. They had reasons. They believed they had speculations that they were doing this, but the way they were able to go in with SWAT teams and target all their locations all over the United States at once was they weren't properly paying their taxes. So that's why he was in on some of this information. And what they were planning on doing was making essentially dirty bombs with the medical waste, using cars that they towed and would impound. And they were planning on just placing them all over the United States and planning a huge mass attack. But it got squashed because they weren't properly paying their taxes. They got,
which is how we got Capone. Yeah. Nobody got Capone for all the other guys for tax evasion.
Yeah, and it was all Iranian-based stuff. This was probably mid 2010s ish, somewhere in that area.
So in Red Dawn, there's a scene in Red Dawn where the pilot talks about how America was invaded.
First wave of the attack came in disguised as commercial charter flights, same way they did in Afghanistan in '80. Only they were crack airborne outfits. They took these passes in the Rockies.
So that's what hit Calumet.
I guess so. Filtrators came up illegal from Mexico. Cubans mostly. They managed to infiltrate the SAC bases in the Midwest, several down in Texas, and wreaked a hell of a lot of havoc, I'm here to tell you. They opened up the door down here, and the whole Cuban and Nicaraguan armies come walking right through, roll right up here through the Great Plains. Russians reinforced with 60 divisions. Sent 3 whole army groups across the Bering Strait into Alaska, cut the pipeline, came across Canada, to link up here in the middle, but we stopped their butt cold.
So that's what they're talking about. That was, I'm not sure when Red Dawn was, the original one.
80s?
Yeah, early 80s, right? Airliners coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And so you wonder if that's drones now. And then infiltrators. So we've got 2 guys. One of them just did a terrorist attack on the 31st from Fort Bragg. And then you got another guy. And so you're like, if what she said, if what, what's her name again here?
Sarah Adams.
Yeah, if what Sarah Adams said, 1,000 or more terrorists may already be here. The invisible bomb is what she talks about. Mm-hmm. Undetectable. Yeah. If that's, let's see here, undetectable to dogs to be worn in suicide vests. Some have been coming through the Darien Gap. She also reiterates hell-bent on embarrassing the U.S. as someone who lived in New York during 9/11, blah, 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 blah. So it's there. It's there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all kind of coming to this head, and you've got Donald Trump at the front, and it's like he's been put in position on purpose.
All this stuff is like a sleight of hand. Like you're look over here, look over here, look up in the sky. I mean, you got P. Diddy parties and all this stuff going down, and Epstein list and Donald Trump.
Nobody's
stuff.
talking about the P. Diddy parties.
No, and it's just wild. He's P. Diddy's poisoned people, and all. I mean, it's nuts.
Okay. Well, all right, we gotta record our show.
Yeah,
we gotta get to our show. This is a good debrief, but we got a show to record on aliens in Las Vegas. Let's do it.